This is Robert Martellacci, the Mindshare Learning for Canada's Learning and Technology magazine. And welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech special edition, as I'm honored to have joined me the remarkable and brilliant Dr. Chris Kim, who is a future-focused software developer in pursuit of using technology to facilitate interdisciplinary collaborations and address today's talent gap in digital media. Formerly trained in media production and information visualization, Chris works with institutional stakeholders, including University of Toronto, MIT, George Brown College, OCAD, to democratize AI and promote human-in-the-loop automation. Chris also operates a software studio called Good Code Club. He's a founder of that, where he operates with emerging talents and promoting underserved communities to facilitate youth entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, Chris Kim.
It's a pleasure. That was quite an intro, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks a lot, Robert.
Always a pleasure. We're going to be talking the use of Gen AI in post-secondary education, student interaction in hybrid learning environments, and students entering post-secondary education and what that looks like. You know, we host many students here at the Mindshare Workspace in the form of co-op and internships. And I'm fascinated by the talent level of these students today. And you're a product of Gen X, Gen Y, and now Gen Alpha is on the horizon here. I can't keep up with all these generations as a baby boomer, but I'm trying hard with my innovator's mindset virtual hat on.
Absolutely.
You've got a lot on your mind these days, and you're doing great work at the design school at George Brown College, where you are hanging your hat as well these days. Fascinating work that they're doing there. The timber building, I have to come and see that.
That's right.
Remarkable innovation.
That's right. That building you're referring to, I believe, is called Limberlost, and I believe they're finalizing the building, and I'm sure they're happy to open the door for public tours and all these guests.
Talk to me about and this is not your first rodeo with Gen AI. You've been on this for a while you're completing your PhD at Ontario Tech. You are one of those pioneers, if you will, and in tinkering and envisioning what's coming. And here it is today. And we are truly at its infancy when I talk about Gen AI. I'm a digital immigrant, you might call me. You're a native, digital native, and I'm embracing it. But we're a small sliver of that equation when it comes to the adoption cycle. And talk to me about where you're at, what you're seeing, what excites you about it. Obviously, there's challenges as well around diversity, inclusion, bias, and safety.
Absolutely. Thanks for the great setup, Robert. Now, AI exists in a continuum. It didn't just come out of blue air for everybody to use. There were different generations of AI. There were different types of AI. The one that has the ability to identify things in a picture, the ones that have the ability to identify different words in a text. But now we're in the next generation of AI where it can actually generate content that is comparable to human counterparts. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned the generational gap here, because as we know, younger generations are much more eager and they're early adopters of these new technologies. So they're way ahead of us as far as learning the nuances and the ways to take advantage of AI. Now, where it becomes a problem is when there's a certain lack of accountability in a post-secondary settings, right? I'm sure you've heard some anecdotes of students turning in work that was mainly based on generative AI and passing as their own. And that obviously triggers a number of academic integrity issues, which coincidentally also is called AI. So that I have been in situations where I was expected to serve as a bit of a middleman in teaching existing colleagues and instructors how to spot generative AI based assignments. I've been also in sessions educating students on how to use AI responsibly. but it still is certainly a work in progress. I think there needs to be a lot of conversations to be had between student bodies as well as instructors to come to terms with in terms of what's an acceptable use of AI and how we can
Mhm.
ensure to cultivate the young minds to stay original and not really rely on AI too much. That's where I think stand.
And the challenge is always, at the grassroots level, whether it's post secondary or K 12, the professors, the students, they're on this. Like, it's probably a reactionary process with the professors and teachers when students are embracing it, because any new innovation that's going to help you be more successful in your learning, uh, whether it's right or wrong. I recall, the former Ryerson University, when a bunch of students got together and were collaborating and sharing their notes. Do you remember this a few years back?
Oh yeah,
Before we really embraced the concept of, um, the whole notion of collaborative learning,
that's right.
right?
A collective intelligence, if you will.
Right?
Yeah,
The smartest person in the room is room. Group work. We all did
yeah,
group
yeah.
work, but it was deemed inappropriate at one time. And now, just like, New York City schools banned AI, Gen AI
Hmm.
tools initially, and now they started an AI policy incubator.
That's
They
right.
took a leadership role and announced that last fall when I was at EdTech Week. So here we are, you know, we're behind the curve, and it's not a bad thing. Canadians typically tend to be a little more conservative,
Sure.
but you're facing that. Yeah, you had to grapple with it. How early in your teaching did you encounter AI generated content? Last fall, prior to that?
I think that's last fall is an apt time, in a sense that that's when there's a whole lot of buzz surrounding the governance and the policy at the college level. I believe there have been many reports from other professors who reported such applications of generative AI in assignment use cases, and that's when it really became a hot button issue, if you will. But there's
And you
always some
encounter it
noise.
before the policies are in place, and we're seeing that in K-12, where we're helping shape the future with the framework that we're developing through C21 Canada and guidelines, because teachers are being faced with these tough decisions on where did this awesome essay come from, where the student's not capable of writing.
Absolutely.
you know
As an avid user of Gen AI, there are some
right,
telltale signs in the way the AI may compose
right,
a certain text. But for those who are uninitiated, if you will, they wouldn't be able
right.
to tell these signs. So I think that's where the issue
I
emerges.
mean, when the
Obviously,
student sounds like Hemingway, right?
exactly.
And it's like, okay, that's not possible.
Yeah,
Good work, very creative, but there's a proper, I guess there's etiquette in the way to do it
hmm,
versus, just letting it generate, idea generation as an example,
yeah,
or um, or review, or share some of your thoughts around that on
that's right.
proper use, and where you see this going.
I think accountability is the salient keyword here. I think the students should be transparent with their usage of AI. They should be able to understand how to cite existing work, so that they don't pass off generative work as their own or original. And once again, there needs to be more conversations, town hall meetings, if you will, between the student
Right.
bodies and the instructors to come to terms once again.
I like that. I like that concept, and I think that it's that storytelling, and I've seen it happen at the school district level, where they have a symposium on AI across the district wide, and then they bring in some experts to talk about it, socialize it,
Hmm.
bring in your stakeholders, and don't keep it a mystery, right? It's that,
Absolutely.
we're in the age of storytelling. The irony is storytelling has come full circle, because when we look at our First Nations peoples,
Sure.
uh, that's the way they shared and learn.
That's right. Folk traditions, oral traditions, et cetera, for sure. I mean, I do want to add one point here is and to say that we shouldn't be the judge of the appropriate use of AI because we don't know whether the workforce demands it as well, right? So I think the businesses, whether it be enterprise or small businesses, they also need to be a conversation in terms of where this generative AI use is going to go in post-secondary education because they're eager to take in the next generation of workforce. And we don't know, our instructors ourselves, without conversations, whether the Gen AI skills are demanded by the workforce.
Right. And so you're embracing it. How are you using it? Share, a couple of tips for professors who might not be immersed yet, but want to
Sure,
take
absolutely.
advantage.
So I think one popular generative AI agent is ChatGPT, as many people may know. But when you go to log in, there is a mechanism that allows you to create your own assistant. So you essentially get to create a personality of sorts with a series of prompts. So, for instance, for example, I have a personality of an AI called Academic Assistant, and this
Okay.
Academic Assistant agent is responsible for taking in my keywords and the various prompts and coming up with salient talking points about a certain subject, coming up with a series of additional descriptions that I may have missed, and also even finding appropriate images that may go along with these slides. And I put them together quickly into a
I
series of
love that.
slideshows.
That's
and
amazing.
It improves my productivity.
So could I create myself an AI agent related to EdTech?
Absolutely. I mean, it would be limited to the training data that GPT was based on, but I think is very competent.
Fascinating. Now, you are the epitome of an innovator with a
You're too
growth
kind.
mindset.
Sure.
You love to tinker. Talk to me about some of your recent innovations, including the Good Code Club
Sure.
the startup that you created.
Sure, sounds good. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a window shared here. You're welcome to share that. Perfect. So when I'm not busy behind the podium, I also work as a software developer. I'm currently operating under the name Good Code Club. I thought it's straightforward. And I guess the innovation that I'm bringing to the table in this regard is that I work extensively with a number of younger or emerging talents, I should say, coming straight out of K-12 as well as college. And I mean, frankly, I think despite the fact that they don't have years of experience under their belt, I think they're still very competent innovators, designers, and developers. And any skills that they may not have, I'm always eager to teach. So we take on a whole lot of clients across Canada and the United States, so that's been fantastic. But recently, we also work on a number of internal projects, and the one that I want to talk to you about is this application called Letterform. I think many people tinker with Microsoft Word and PowerPoint to a point where the productivity goes out the door. So we essentially created a very simple text editor that has the ability to turn any kind of plain text into a presentation or an article that can be shared with the world with the click of a button. And it served me personally quite well over the past year as I was preparing tens and I would say hundreds of blog articles for the students all around the world. And this application has been very instrumental in keeping myself productive and sane, I would say. So that's what's been keeping me busy.
Very cool. Simple, but very, what a real utility that you offer.
That's
What
right.
was the inspiration? How would you describe, the problem solving exercise,
Sure. I mean,
the ideation process?
absolutely. In my years in my PhD and master's degree, I think I spent hours taking other people's presentation decks and trying to
Right.
adapt it to something that works for me. And I thought to myself, I'm not interested in the style of these presentations. I'm always interested in the substance and the text of it. So that was one thought that I have. But on the other side, software developers don't really tinker with PowerPoints at all. They work with plain text. They work with this very simple markup language called Markdown that allows you to denote headings and paragraphs without having to use special software. And I thought to myself, why not bridge the gap between the two that allows me to write simple text that turns into a competent presentation that I can use. And that's how this was born.
And what's the response been like so far?
I thought I would share this with the world, thinking that other people might take advantage of it. And turns out, over the past 14 months, we had about 10 presentation decks and articles that were produced in addition to my own, which is quite exciting. I had a chance to take a sneak peek at some of the projects that were created in the past. There were some classes on Latin, classical history, as well as programming lessons that were being made using this application, which was quite exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what's
I'm just
next?
happy to hear this. What's next? Aside from all the lecture appointments and all the software client projects, I'm always looking for ways to grow. So maybe taking some time off, spending some time with family.
Yeah, and
that's
got,
certainly part of my docket.
You know, being a dad is another, and we forgot to mention that, not to belittle the being dad
of course
responsibility, that you're a proud dad now, and so I'm sure your son is going to benefit from all the innovation that you're going to surround him with.
If you say so. It's certainly
how are his digital skills evolving?
He certainly knows how to turn off my computer when I'm busy at work. Thank goodness everything's being saved automatically nowadays. Otherwise, I would have been quite upset. But yeah, he has been playing very much with buttons and whatever that's tactile, which is exciting.
Well, it brings back fond memories of my 3 kids, and
I
bringing them out to when we launched Kevin O'Leary's company, and my boys were little models. You know, at 2 years old, they were sitting there on the computer being little demo guys, and that was quite cute. But speaking of conferences, we're thrilled to have you joining us at the 15th Canadian EdTech Leadership Summit this coming October 31st to November 2nd at the University of Toronto Scarborough, in a brand new building, which has an immersive campfire experience. We're really super excited to be navigating the future of learning in an AI-inspired world that we now live in, and grapple with those challenges. We've got some images there from last year's. Yeah, this is the immersive space. This is one of the lecture halls. And we're back in Toronto after 5 years, believe it or not. So it's incredible how things have evolved in just 5 years. The whole process of innovation in organizations gaining traction, especially after COVID. Talk to me about post-COVID. That's the immersive campfire style lecture hall, which is circular. So imagine standing at a podium in the center of the room. What can you visualize that and how you would teach?
In the round table setting?
Yeah.
I mean, I was never the classical behind the podium type of instructor to begin with.
Right. So you're going to be just
to me, I think it's going to come
in a 360.
Exactly. I think it's going to come to me naturally, if you will. But I should mention that in this hybrid learning environment, things do get a little tricky for instructors who prefer to keep things asynchronous, if you will. I believe in giving the maximum level of accessibility to all the students, to all the learning content. And that sometimes involves speaking in a very small virtual room, essentially going live to tape, if you will. And that's something that many instructors will have to come to terms with, because not all kinds of learning happens in an asynchronous setting. Sometimes you use these materials, and you want to go out and spend as little time as possible preparing those learning materials as well, so you can go out there and enjoy your summer, if you will.
Right. So that begs the question around the future of learning. And, you know, when I play with the faculty hockey guys at York, I just received a longevity award in June. 4 decades. I know I look a lot younger than I am, but I've got 3 more decades to catch up to my former left winger, who was our former president, Ian McDonald, who managed to squeeze in 7 decades on the squad. So
My goodness.
There's 30 years. But the notion of hybrid learning environments, you know, prior to the pandemic, I always thought, you know, do we need to have students come in every day? You know, like 2 to 3 days a week, carve out some hybrid learning. What does learning look like? I mean, we've got hybrid work. I mean, we cater to a lot of hybrid
Mm-hmm.
workers here at the workspace.
Mm-hmm.
And what about, so some, we've never been busier because half the people aren't going downtown. They need somewhere to work. So we cater to the hybrid worker
Mm-hmm.
and they need a third space to work. What does learning look like for the future post-secondary student when a lot of them don't want to come to school, are quite happy being at home? I mean, the socialization aspect is vital, but is
Mm-hmm.
it 1 2 days a week? Do you offer hybrid for your current students who are taking the courses?
Absolutely. I always, for those who can make it to the synchronous sessions, I always make sure that there's a recording available for them to catch up.
Right.
All the materials can be accessed online and
But not
offline.
live, not
Uh,
synchronous hybrid.
I do recommend joining me synchronously for any kind of last minute
Yeah.
questions or real time troubleshooting. But if that happens to collide with their day to day, I'm more than happy to be as flexible as possible. But that's due to the situation that I'm in, due to the benefit of the fact that much of the learning can be done online. Having said that, I think mentorship is going to come back in a big way. I think many of the young students, emerging talents, do look to seasoned veterans and professionals
Right.
for the inspiration. So I think there will be a big demand where these emerging talents would be eager to sign up for a coffee chat, individual Zoom meetings, or even a uh, small sit around and a conversation.
This, begs the question around what is the future student uh, going to be like? What are the expectations are evolving,
I agree.
and what like so admission trends we were looking at, and the quality, the caliber of these students.
Yeah.
What is their mindset like post COVID in a
That,
post
that's
COVID
that's that's a
world?
really interesting question, Robert, because I do see a bit of a shift in the trends of these post-secondary education students. One is that many students may opt to skip post-secondary after K-12 altogether. They may find themselves being much more happy joining the workforce right away. So that's one option. And I also see a surge in adult students who opt to take night classes, continuing studies classes, and even joining the post-secondary 4 or 2 year program altogether. So I feel that the post-secondary is no longer a necessary milestone or stepping stone immediately after K-12. It's going to become a lot more optional, and for anybody of any age to come in and join the process should they wish to.
And 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 thinking about that emerging student, and I've had a couple of students that were here from high school the last month. One of them, I said, your skill set is so refined that I could hire you full time today,
Mm-hmm.
and but your parents would not be happy with you because they expect you to finish grade 12 and go to college or university.
Mm-hmm.
The caliber of these kids and the notion of micro credentialing and startup culture, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and a number of other legendary entrepreneurs didn't finish college, and many are not choosing to go. We're surrounded by learning everywhere.
Yeah,
So, micro credentialing, Lighthouse Labs, 3 month
that's right.
credential, micro credential, get you a web design job.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing? I mean, you're right in the thick of this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, as an instructor, I've had many post-secondary education experience on different levels. But something that's quite intangible that these alternate options like micro credentials and boot camps can offer is really the extensive network that you get from as part of being alumni network. And a lot of people may roll their eyes and thinking I can make my friends anywhere, but having this institutional support in growing and
Right.
learning as a student is crucial, and I really don't want to discount it at all.
Yeah. No, there's definitely value. I mean, given the fact that you work for post-secondary
It's
institution.
true.
There's
Mhm.
definitely value. And sometimes if opportunities come along and you've got a startup and it's really taken off,
That's true.
going for it and the amount of learning just from doing and creating and pioneering uh, can be very powerful. And then whether you do it part-time but mentorship, you referenced mentorship. I have a board of advisors
Mhm.
that I leaned on
Of
over
course.
the years a lot. And that's a form of mentorship. So mentorship comes in many forms, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it could be a fellow classmate that you happen to sit next to in
Right.
one day. It could be a professor that you really enjoy learning from. That can cultivate a lifetime of mentorship that way. There are different ways to go about it, but being in the post-secondary setting, education certainly does prime you to be exposed to more of those opportunities for sure. I should say, however, that I do feel that the 2 year and 4 year investment in post-secondary education can seem scary and can seem quite long. And I do hope that post-secondary education institutions will respond to some of those demands and feedback and maybe make these courses a lot more accessible beyond
Right. Well
having
said.
the program itself and only the program.
And if I'm not mistaken, colleges and universities are starting to introduce the notion of micro credentialing.
Absolutely, that's right. I
So,
think
so
I
they're
think
adapting. I almost feel like colleges are more agile in that regard in innovation in their program offering.
I agree. I agree, and I think the many students feel that way as well. They feel that they get a series of very strong practical skills coming out of college, and that's also part of the reason why I was drawn to work with George Brown College because that's exactly what they focus on.
Now, you're in the design school. So, what types of programs will students studying and can they graduate with?
Right. So I think the baseline is crafting a wonderful experiences for the end user. So it could be a website, it could be an application, or even a video game product.
Right.
And the work that I do is to give them a bit of an engineering exposure, if you will.
Oh,
Many
cool.
people can always design experiences in their minds on Canvas or what have you, but they often don't go far enough to understand all the work that goes into pushing pushing that particular idea into an actual product. So that's where I
Right.
step in and tell them about all the hard work that goes into creating such products.
Chris Kim, grateful for your time today. You're brilliant. You're doing incredible work, always inspiring. Any final thoughts to share?
No, no, it was a pleasure to be as part of this call once again. I should say that post-secondary education is in a juncture. It's an exciting time, and I hope everybody who might be upset about somebody using a generative AI to create essay, don't be upset about it. I see that as an opportunity to further automate all the work that we do, so that we can focus on other exciting things as a mankind, I suppose.
With that, and we look forward to seeing you present at our Canadian EdTech Leadership Summit, October 31st and November 2nd at the University of Toronto at Scarborough. A shorter drive for you. I'm going to
Absolutely,
be going
looking
to
forward
check
to
out
it.
the venue in the new building. Grateful for your time again, Dr. Chris Kim, innovator, scholar, pioneer, founder, book author at some point, no doubt. And with that, my name is Robert Merdlanche of the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out Mindshare Learning to get your latest issue. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, enjoy your summer, and keep the learning curve steep.
Fantastic, thank you.